Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Small business owner further up north. Just a few years ago, 10 years ago, used to know my local banker, community bank. That's gone. They've been gobbled up time and time again, to a point now that a sound business of 15 years can't even get refinanced. Looking at sales, buyers coming in, just don't have any opportunity whatsoever. What can be done so that we as the small businessmen, 16 employees, actually have a chance to have the opportunity to raise our families and to make money, which is what we're
Well, if you combine the repeal of Dodd-Frank, and I'd also repeal Sarbanes-Oxley. So you take all of that paperwork, all that red tape off this. See, if you're a small bank, that red tape kills you. If you're Chase Manhattan, I'm not thinking I'm a Citibank, if you're a really big bank, you have an entire department that takes care of regulations. You don't care. It's not a big cost to you. It doesn't add to your cost structure dramatically. If you're a small bank, it kills you. So the first thing you do is you have to repeal Dodd-Frank, and you have to repeal Sarbanes-Oxley. The second thing you do, at zero capital gains, you're going to suddenly find 50 people in your community who want to found a bank. And I argued in 2008 that they'd gone in exactly the wrong direction. And by the way, the historic data is clear. Everything they've done has made the banks that are too big to fail bigger. I mean, the fact is you can afford to have small local banks that are smart or are not smart because none of them are a threat to the national economy. You can allow free enterprise to flourish, and local communities and local boards of directors take local risks, and that's how you flourish. But these big banks are by definition impersonal. I have a good friend, this is an example of a human tragedy. She gave me permission to tell this story. She bought the house of her dreams in California. Put $200,000 out, a professional working woman in her mid-40s. Got a second mortgage. Bank came along about a year and a half ago and said, we're not going to allow you to roll over your second mortgage. She took all the rest of her savings, $200,000 more, put it in. Now, she bought it on a 9-year balloon note that's supposed to roll over. However, like one out of every 4 Americans, her house is now worth less than the mortgage. So the bank is coming back, one of the big, giant banks, has no idea who she is as a person, has no idea what her personal history is, has no idea how hard she works. They're coming back under their automatic bureaucratic formula. They're saying to her, you've got to find the cash to pay this off because we won't go over. So she's faced not only with losing the house of her dreams, she's faced with losing $400,000, her life savings, because of the impersonal bureaucratic nature of these big institutions. If she had a local banker and a local bank board and had a personal relationship, they'd find a way to work through this. And that's why I think we should have a conscious bias in favor of creating a new generation of community and local banks where you know your banker and you know the bank board and you're able to make practical common sense decisions.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you for taking my question. You mentioned the Dodd-Frank bill a couple of times, and I'm not very familiar with it. Can you explain that in more detail?
So the Dodd-Frank bill does several things that are a disaster. It establishes a mandatory 20% down payment to buy a house. So at a time when housing prices have dropped worse than the Great Depression, we're now going to standard that guarantees there's no housing market for a generation. It establishes a treasury board that can reach into any bank designated too big to fail can now be micromanaged by a set of presidential appointees in Washington. Now, that's not an invitation to corruption. You tell me what you think is going to be like to have a bunch of Washington appointees that literally are life and death for every major bank in the country. And third, it creates so much paperwork that literally the expectation in Texas, for example, is the 1 out of every 3 independent banks will be out of business by the end of the day because they'll just be crushed. So it is a terrible bill. It's a perfect big government, big bureaucrat, Washington knows everything bill by left-wingers. But why would you keep it? Oh, I mean, I should just go to say to you Dodd and Frank, and it should be fairly obvious. By the way, that's one of the differences in my campaign. When I was Speaker, we didn't tweak welfare. We replaced the entire system. When I was Speaker, we didn't marginally change the deficit. We balanced the federal budget. And I think that's the attitude we have to have. We're putting together a people's campaign. You can go to newt.org if you want to sign up for it, because it's going to be a grassroots campaign that is designed to replace, not marginally modify, replace the institutions and policies of the left, which have driven us into the Obama depression and made life harder for every American.